Hey there, it's Melanie here. Welcome to the first of our Amplify Live series that I'm doing here in March. It's such a unique time right now, isn't it? So we're not going to get into that. If you missed my session earlier in the week, I gave you some tips about how to really like thrive during this time. But what I want to do is I want to dig deeper and unpack a really valuable strategy that's so perfect right now, especially with so many of us going to virtual and social distancing. It's super important to tap into visibility strategies and marketing opportunities to share your message and get in front of your best clients. And as I said, and I think this is so key, is literally allowing you to tap into the customer base and prospect pools that your competitors have been working for years to build and accessing those leads through podcast interviews. Now, there's lots of ways that we can do that. I'm actually going to do a whole Amplify Your Success podcast on how to leverage your competitors to build your own database of potential clients. But for today, I want to unpack a little bit more. Hi, John. I want to unpack a little bit more about how to use podcasts in this way and why, if you're not currently using podcasts to get your message out on other people's platforms, you absolutely want to start doing it this month. And why, if you're already using podcast interviewing to share your message, but it's not getting you the results, why you are bumping up against some problems. So just a little bit of background, and then I'm going to start tapping into some awesome strategies. So be sure to take a lot of good notes. And while you're listening in, whether you're listening in live or you're coming back to this later, tell me where you're at. Are you already getting on podcasts as a guest to share your message? Or would you like to and you haven't yet? Or have you been trying some other online platforms? I know some of my clients do like online Facebook shows, or they're actually doing like virtual summit interviews. So there's a lot of different ways we can use these techniques. Hello, Lisa. Nice to see you here as well. I want to hear your questions along the way too. Tell me what's up for you. Where are you getting stuck on this? Where do you have your biggest questions that maybe are holding you back a little bit from tapping into this brilliant free visibility technique? So, a little background before I jump deep into this. I have been podcasting for over 8 years now. I'm on my second podcast with Amplify Your Success. I've probably done way over 450 interviews. And I'm being a little conservative, but I have the great fortune to be asked quite a bit to be on other people's shows, all the way back, even before I was ever on hosting my own show. And I have seen in my own business, and I've seen in the businesses of the guests who come on my shows and the clients who come to me for help with this, what actually will turn that podcast interview into a lead magnet, it turns it into this magnet that pulls ideal clients and helps you build your list. And I can see where people are falling flat and people go like, I know people are getting leads from your shows. Why did I not? And I can see exactly what little pieces are going to make that a buzzworthy episode and get them clients, and what's going to like lay flat. So I'm going to share some of these with you over the next three episodes I'm doing. I'm going to do these live. And today we're talking about how to like really make podcasting your number one lead magnet. So first of all, one of the things that I want you to understand about podcasting, and again, I'm going to come back and look at your notes in a second, but I want to hear, are you already using podcast guesting as a strategy, or do you want to? Tell me where you're at on that. Here's why I'm super hot about it. First of all, just to set a little context, if you're not a big podcast listener yet, hi, Deb. Hello, Sherry. Good to see you. If you are not using it yet to get your message out, you are missing out on what we like to call a captive audience. When someone listens to a podcast, they are usually in their car or they're walking or doing something with their headphones in, and they are doing like you. Like all they hear is the guest interview and the host. And so you have somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes to deeply connect with that listener. And it is a profound marketing opportunity that gets replicated very few other ways. The second thing about podcasting, and this is so critical right now, and if I didn't win you over with the first one, I'm definitely going to win you over with the second one. Podcasting is growing at an exponential rate. So the statistics that have been captured at the end of 2018, there were 550,000 podcasts out there. That seems like a lot, right? And that's from all the years of podcasts that are being launched since the beginning of podcasting. Between 2018 and the close of 2019, it grew an astronomical amount. We ended 2019 with 950,000 podcasts. So that's really awesome growth. Now, what does this mean to you? What this means to you is that those people need your expertise to fill a need for content. They are actively looking for people who have a great message, who are magnetic, who can deliver some awesome content in a unique way so that they're making their listeners happy and they get more listeners, right? It's a total win-win-win. So I can see some of the people posting, I'm interested, I want to, but I haven't started. I haven't done anything yet. Okay. And some people wonder, like, is this the right fit for my audience? We can talk about that. Haven't done it yet, but I'm interested. Great. You're all in the right place. Now, here's one of the things that's super important. You can have brilliant, really great ideas and do all the right things and get on a podcast and share your heart out. But if you don't have what I call some magnetic messaging elements, your interview can be nice and not grab the attention of your ideal clients and get them from listening to actively seeking you out for help. So I'll be unpacking that over the next 3 sessions. And today, what I want to talk a little bit about is what's not working. First of all, in your interviews. And secondly, if you are trying to get on interviews, which it sounds like most of you have not, maybe a couple of you, I saw Deb saying she's starting to. I want to share what's not working to get on podcasts and what's missing that you can really do a couple tiny tweaks to get you on podcasts and turn those into your best client magnet. And again, if you got questions popping up along the way, shout them out. I will come back and capture those questions along the way. So let me tackle first what doesn't work to get on a show. Because obviously it doesn't even matter if you're not on the show yet, right? Well, what doesn't work is going through and looking at a bunch of podcasts and going, oh, it would be great to get on that show, and just sending a pitch or even like sliding into someone's DM and saying, hey, can I be on your show? Nope, don't do it. It's a burning a bridge. Now, unless you know that person, obviously that sets up it a little bit differently, but I can tell you, because I do have a very popular podcast in the entrepreneurial space, especially in the online space, I get a good, sometimes 100 pitches a week. On average, 25 to 35 pitches a week. I don't even have time to read most of them, let alone respond to every one of them. But I can tell you what doesn't work is somebody who's like, hey, I saw you have a great podcast. I'd love to get my topic on your show. Not interested. Second thing that doesn't work is having a message that sounds like everybody else that they're getting pitched by. This is where we can take a page from traditional media, getting on the news, getting a TV segment, imagining yourself in the other chair on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday, right? They hear the same stuff over and over and over again. And a common mistake that people are making in their pitches, and we'll bring this back into what happens during the interview, is you're pitching stuff that sounds like everybody else. And I get it. To you, you know it's magical. You know you've got great content, right? And you may even be feeling like you are a best kept secret. Does anybody ever feel like that? Like you feel like, I'm doing all the right stuff. I'm sharing this great message. I've got this really powerful program, and I feel invisible sometimes, right? Hey, Ann, nice to see you here. Well, that's pretty common for people who are what I call generic gene. And that can be a male or a female, right? Try to find one of those sex neutral names. But if you're generic gene and you are not using the right strategies, you will sound like everybody else. And here's what podcast hosts do want. They want something that's got some energy, that's got some pop, and that, maybe it is the same topic, but the way you're approaching it is unique and it's relevant. Relevancy rules. So I'm going to give you a formula in a little bit to talk about how to conquer generic gene. But let's first of all look at what else isn't working. Now, let's imagine you have gotten on the show and you're really excited and you've got some great stuff that is perfect for this audience. And you get on the show and the person who's hosting is kind of taking the lead, and they've asked you maybe like, what questions do you want me to cover? And you gave them a couple of thoughts, right? But you get into it and you're realizing like you keep losing your way. Okay. Maybe you found yourself rambling a little bit. Now that's one. And if you haven't got this yet, you're definitely going to get it. Part of my 17 mistakes you're making in your interviews that are costing you leads and clients. That ramble is boring to the listener, and it's a symptom of one of the other mistakes, and that is you're winging it. And here I have interviewed so many people. I've interviewed new business owners, and I've interviewed longtime experts who are an ace at what they do. And if they're winging it, I can tell. They don't have a game plan. They don't have a structure. They don't really have anything that is grabbing the audience's attention. And what happens is it doesn't land well for the listener. And the listener's like, okay, that was nice. And they click away. So here's what's missing. Something I call showstoppers, ooh factors, and catchphrases. You will notice 9 out of 10 times, unless I'm in a really unique interview and the host really has a set format, I'm going to land a few showstoppers, bold influence formulas, and some catchphrases. And what that does is it gets the listener to stop and go, what? Wait, what was that? And it pulls them in. Okay, so there's a lot of techniques that we can use. And some people are like, well, Melanie, I don't really have formulas. I guarantee you I can find a formula, okay? But maybe formula is not your thing. Maybe we've got to craft a story. Maybe we've got to, find some ways in which you explain what you do and pull it through so it's really catchy to the audience. Sometimes just naming a problem or the kind of client you want is a perfect way to pull people's attention in, right? So tell me, who thinks they might have a showstopper, a formula, or maybe a story that when they tell it's so compelling and it really pulls the listeners in? And maybe you haven't figured out how to craft it together yet, and that's okay. But really, tell me what's up for you. Are you already and you know there might be a better way, or are you realizing this is what you need to do? Now, let me come back to the Rambling Rose piece for a minute. Rambling Rose, and I just wanted to come up with a catchy name, right? Is the idea that you're kind of all over the place. And even though you know what you're talking about, it's hard for the other person to track. And so think about it like this. In this captive audience, we can't see the listener. We usually can't even see the host. And so how you pull someone in like a magnet has to do with the way you use your words to get their attention, connect to their pain, and map them to the solution that their heart is searching for. And this is something that we can do in so many ways. Like each of you will have your own unique way this works for you. But if you're not doing that, what's happening is you're not pulling people in a need that's so compelling for them that they have to solve the problem. And the second thing that's happening here is oftentimes what I call you lose the golden thread. So the golden thread is you know what you want somebody to do, you know what it is you want to sell, and you're reverse engineering the talk. So you have a title, you have questions, and you have showstoppers, and you have all the elements of a Get Magnetics talk. And you are layering that in. So by the time you're done and you invite somebody into action to use something, they're like, oh my God, I need this. Like, this solves the problem, or this is what I've been looking for. And if you're not getting leads and clients from podcast interviews, from talks, look, from any marketing effort you're doing, you're missing the golden thread. And that's what's blowing up. That's what's not strong enough, and why someone doesn't get why they need you. Okay, so I've been doing this 20 years, and I fought this tooth and nail for a long time. Like, I really resisted in my early days, and some of my early friends who were in the marketing world would try to like get me to wake up and go, Melanie, like what you're saying isn't. It's so plain vanilla. It's like it's generic. Like, I know it means something to you, but you're talking about stuff that like I don't need and want. And that's really the golden thread. Can you pull the golden thread through so that what you're talking about is relevant and specific and so enticing that somebody can't wait to learn more from you? Okay, so ultimately, if we're going to tap into this podcasting, we're going to tap into virtual summits, any of these virtual platforms that really I think are going to be a God-saving force for us right now. Again, like we're doing this live during the time, a very unprecedented time when literally our world is in shutdown for physical experiences with others. And this is where many of us have learned how to attract clients. We're going to have to quickly adapt and learn how to use virtual environments. And podcasting is going to blow up even more right now. And online summits, I can't tell you how many people have told me, I'm not going to go host my own live event, but I am going to turn it into a virtual summit. And that means they're going to need more experts, and they're going to need more people who can deliver amazing, amazing content and valuable strategies. And if you don't know how to turn that into your personal client magnet, then it's going to be a waste of all the time and energy you spend on it, right? Like, so I just want to check here who's been feeling like that you are wanting to like get better results when you're out there. So if you are, tell me, like, are you wanting to be able to get more traction with your virtual summits, with your podcast interviews, and you recognize that what you're doing isn't working as well? Let me give me a little shout out. I see some new people joining in. Hey, Tamara. Hey, Adam. Great to see you here. So tell me, like, where are you at? It's working great. I'm getting great clients, or I wish it could be a lot better. So interestingly enough, I've been doing a series of Amplify audits. So for those of you that qualified and said, yes, I want an Amplify audit early on, one of the big things I've found is that people do not have in any of their marketing these magnetic messaging components. So it kind of got me really excited to teach more of this, because I know how powerful it can be to have the hooks that pull people in versus the, yeah, this is kind of falling flat, and it's like, I don't get what's in it for me. All right, so let's talk about some hacks. All right, hack, I have a love-hate relationship with hack, but for lack of a better word, these are some little things you can do that have a great result for you. And the first one is, and this is I just want to give you a little slice out of my Get Magnetic Messaging program that we've opened the doors to. So I'll share a little bit more about that in a little bit. But inside this, one of the things that you have to learn is create your own celebrity. And what I mean by that is podcast hosts and basically anybody who's booking, they love getting their hands on who they consider a celebrity or an authority, right? Someone who's a real expert. Maybe they're an influencer or leader in their industry. That gives the host a little bump of influence association, right? And so sometimes you're getting passed over or you're losing that golden thread because someone doesn't understand how amazing you are because you've got this one 20-minute or 30-minute segment to get that point across. So there's ways to cultivate that credibility and build that up in the first 5 minutes. Okay, in the first 5 minutes, this can be done with three things. One, your introduction. Well, actually, it can be done. Actually, the first one's before you even get on, and that's with your bio, what someone would be reading about you. And if you're not doing credibility boosters in your intro, someone may not ever even listen. So the first one is in your intro. The second one is in your, I'm sorry, the first one is in your bio. The second one is in your intro. And the third is how you weave in results into the conversation and the points you're making. Okay, so those are three really simple ones that anyone can do. Now, here's a common question that comes up when I'm teaching people this system, because I've been doing this a lot with my clients over the last couple of years. And they would always say, okay, Melanie, like, I don't know if I really have any credibility. Like, how do I find my credibility? There's always a place where you have credibility. But what happens is it's really hard to see it in your own self because most of us are very modest, right? Like we don't really pat our own backs enough. And so we miss those credibility opportunities because we think, oh, well, I don't want to seem like too big for my britches, right? And so you're missing those credibility boosters and you gloss over them. So let's now talk about how to create momentum. So momentum is what people are looking for you to bring into the energy of your podcast interview and then what you do after. So momentum is something that you can create with buzz. Okay, so going back to showstoppers and bold influence formulas, that's one way you start creating buzz because guess what happens? When you're dropping those golden nuggets and somebody's emailing that host and they're like, that was brilliant. This gets shared more on social media. It gets more traction for you getting buzz and momentum back into whatever you're inviting people to do, right? And so momentum basically means that something starts to get momentum on its own because what's inside that conversation, what's inside those talking points is so exciting and it's so intriguing that people want more. But you can also help boost that along a little bit. So here's a little trick. I'm going to share something that I started doing, and I didn't even realize why it was so momentous at first, but now I'm starting to see major impact. And that is when I get put on a podcast, I immediately, when they let me know, I share it everywhere on all my social media. We highlight it in the weekly newsletter, which you've probably seen. Where's Melanie? In the PS, and then I'll share where I've been. But I also put it into social media rotation. Now, yes, this helps the host, and it's a great strategy to really like say thank you because even though you're not having to do a lot to, usually people aren't paying to get spotlighted on a podcast. What they are doing is putting a lot of time and money into spotlighting you on that podcast. And so it's a nice professional courtesy to give back. But here's where it's even a bigger win-win for you, is when you start buzzing, guess who is seeing you being spotlighted in your expertise? Other podcast hosts, other content providers, other people who are looking for great experts just like you. Because a lot of them are searching with hashtags, they're watching online, they're noticing what's going across their screen. And when you're doing a good job of sharing over and over and over again what you shared on someone else's platform, you are positioning your credibility, your authority, and your expertise. And it creates this buzz and momentum that will pull in more opportunities to get spotlighted. So that's why it's so critical that we take it on our own to develop some of this powerful momentum. All right, I see lots of great thanks. Deb was saying you helped me a lot with my podcast bio and intro, things I didn't even think to include. Deb's one of my Amplify Mastermind members. She's also in the new Get Magnetic messaging system that's starting soon, and we'll even go deeper into all of that. John's asking, how do you do that when you're just starting with no track record of accomplishments? So, John, that's a good question. Look, everybody has something, and sometimes we have to pull into your we have to pull into other people's feedback of you. So if you don't have proven results, but someone said, hey, I love when you do this, we can use some of that and pull that through. So it's about trying to figure out what is it that somebody needs to hear, and how does that match something that you do so well. I'm a big league, Adam saying, I'm a big league introvert. I've been training for this moment my entire life. Yeah, that's great. Great. So by sharing, check me out on so-and-so show, your guest credentializes themselves. It's so true. Thank you for sharing that. So, let me also give you another little hack. And this is so big. It's such an important piece of this puzzle is, do you have a solid messaging strategy that brings your golden thread through? Now, my guess is if you've not done this before, then you don't have that yet, and that's okay. But if you have been doing this a lot and you've been out on other podcast guest spots and you're not getting enough clients and you're not getting enough leads from these spotlights, you're missing that golden thread. And so the golden thread, remember, is your topic pulls people in a specific and relevant way, and then it connects to the talking points and your showstoppers and your formulas. And there's some other elements too, way too big to get into in one session here today. But there's these messaging factors that you pull through. And then it matches in a compelling way to a first step. It could be a webinar, it could be a book, it could be a consult request, whatever that is, that will uniquely position them to want your, what I call your unique profit amplifier, which is what we were talking about last month. That is a solid messaging strategy. And yeah, sometimes it's a little difficult to cultivate this on your own. And I want you to know, I totally get it. I sometimes have to revamp mine several times before I really feel like I nail it down. And it does sometimes help to have a third person, someone who's an expert in this, really look at it with you and see it from the lens of what is the compelling positioning? What is the magnetic message here, right? It's why I love doing it with the clients in my programs, because I can see things they don't see. Now, let me talk about one last little trick. So I want to come back to this idea that if you are not yet on podcast interviews, or you're not getting on enough podcast interviews, or you want to get invited to some bigger, more prestigious interviews, what could you start doing right now to get you in the limelight with them, to get you on their radar? So one of the things I teach in Get Magnetic Messaging, I'll just give you a little preview here, is how to do what I call prime the pump. So think of it like this. You are kind of cyber stalking in a nice way, right? Like not in a bad way, but in a nice way. Some hosts, some shows that you really like. And you're like, God, if I could just get on their show. What I want you to do is I want you to go follow them on their social media platforms. Most of them are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and some of them are also on LinkedIn. I'm on all four. And you pick the platform that's best for you and your audience. And I want you to start paying attention to when they share about their podcast or any message that's really relevant for you, and share them. Comment on their posts. Actively be out there and be generous to create a awareness that you are a fan. I guarantee you, if you do this steadily for a period of time, that they will start to notice you. And if you really are a good fit for that show, they'll pay attention. Okay. So if they're doing things like thanking you or like, hey, tell me more, right? If they're engaging with you back, they're using that platform to create engagement and the strategy will work with them. And then after you have been connecting with them for some time, then you can say, hey, I've been really paying attention to your show. I've been loving this episode. I've been enjoying this over here. And like when you had that conversation about ABC, I really like it really pulled me in and it made me start thinking, I have this specialty in my ZYX and it would, I think it'd make a really good feature on your show. What do you think? Is it worth exploring together? Soft pitch. Okay. Do not, I'm going to reiterate this, do not befriend someone on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, Instagram, and immediately start DMing them to get on their show. Do not do that in the invitation to be your connection on LinkedIn. You will get deleted. You will immediately turn them off. It'll be 10 times harder to get that traction back. Do the soft pitch, warm them up, build rapport, be a great fan, and then become a great guest, okay? So that's one piece of the puzzle to getting booked. Sometimes it's about the connections and, for the members of Get Magnetic Messaging, I'm always happy to help connect you with the podcasts that I think would be really meaningful and valuable for you. So let's do a little recapping. We've been talking about how to create momentum and get that buzz quality working in your favor. We've talked about how to cultivate some credibility, even if you don't believe you have any yet. Okay, so I shared a tip with John. We talked about a couple things. So let me come back to this. Credibility could be anything from you've been featured in certain types of periodicals. And if you haven't yet, great place to start. Start pitching your topic to some periodicals that would boost your credibility. Could be results. It could be your education. Okay, and it could be a testimonial that you've gotten from someone else. So we got to find the right one for you, but there's a lot of places where that can come through. And sometimes it's just simply how you language your topic and your talking points. That credibility will burst right through. Okay, so that's one of the things I've gotten pretty good at over the years. And I actually had someone, I was doing a show in New Zealand yesterday, and the guy's like, man, you're really good at this. And that was a big compliment because he's a marketing expert. And he was saying like, man, I got your credibility in your topic title. So that sometimes is an easy place to drop some of that energy that you're wanting to create. All right, so how can we be using podcasting? Listen, remember, people are captive audiences, and the more podcasts that get started, the more people are looking to showcase experts just like you. And, I forgot one of the most important parts about all that. Many of these podcasters are your competitors. They are serving your same audience and maybe even have very similar offers. But if they're booking guests on their show, they're booking guests on their virtual summits, they're booking guests on their online shows, whatever that is, they will oftentimes bring their competitors on because you have a slightly different topic or a slightly different approach, and they will give you access to their prospect pool. And that's the golden ticket, my friend. That's when you don't have to work so hard to get in front of the right audiences because your competitors have spent so much time, money, and energy building up that marketing pool. And now they're opening it up to you, whether it's on their podcast or some other kind of, influence boosting platform. And you showing up is key. Now, the trick is really figuring out what your message needs to be, right? How do we uncover that? So I want to invite you to something, and I'm super excited to share this with you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it, and I'll come back through and answer all the questions that have been coming up. I have opened the door to a program called Get Magnetic Messaging System. It starts in April, but we are taking early registrations right now. And here's what's super exciting is the early registration is 50% off the group level program. Okay, so that does end tomorrow night. So you definitely want to jump on it. If that's something you're thinking about, you can go to getmagneticmessaging.com amplifysuccess.com, and you will find out what the program is about. But let me just hit a couple high notes. What we're doing in that program is, in essence, I am helping you map out what your magnetic messaging is, what your topic is, what your talking points are, how to write a bio and an intro that gets you that credibility before you ever get a word out of your mouth. So literally the host is, jacking you up and showing how powerful you are before you ever say one word, how to uncover showstoppers and formulas that are teaching your clients you are amazing, you are an authority, and creating that magnetic energy that pulls them in, and how to lead them to something that can turn into your best prospecting pool and attract ideal clients, right? So finding out that formula for you, getting all those pieces, parts, pulling through that golden thread. And then we got a couple fun early bonuses, being one of the first 10 people, and or being in the early registration before we close the early registration. We've got a couple things. One, you will get access to my top 100 podcasters that are looking for guests just like you. So I'm compiling a very, very powerful list of those podcasts to help you with the research, so you don't have to pay someone else to do that. And this will get you started. So, we're pulling from different industries and getting different things together so that no matter who you are and what kind of work you're doing, you will get at least 4 or 5 potential podcast episodes, if not, or podcasters, if not more. The other thing, and I'm super excited about this, if you are one of the first 10 people, and I can say several of these spots have actually been taken. I believe we have 8 spots left. I'm going to do a practice interview with you, which means I'm going to help you get all of it put together, and I'm going to record start to finish an episode with you. Now, if you are a great fit and you really nail that, I may just air it on Amplify Your Success podcast. But if it's not a good fit, or we know you need a little more practice before you go live, then what you'll do is you'll have that to practice, to use, and you can share it however you want. Okay, so that is only for the first 10 people. And as I said, a few of those spots have already been taken, because I want to give you real life practical approaches to not just learning this, but integrating it and mastering it, so you have the confidence, you have the system, and you can take every hour you invest in being a guest on someone's show, on someone's summit, and turn it into your gold mine of leads. Okay, so I'm excited about that. Now, I'll come back and take the questions, but let me tell you what's coming up next. I'll be back next Tuesday and next Thursday. I got 2 more parts to this, and I'm going to unravel and unpack my secret formula to transforming boring topics into buzzworthy interviews. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into how do you find your formula, your buzzword, and why you're doing all the right marketing activities, but you still aren't getting leads and clients. Okay. And I'm going to cover a couple more tricks that transform interesting conversations that get no results to powerful list building episodes that just bring a flood of new prospects and leads in. So that's what's coming up. I love hearing your questions. Let me know what you've got going on. All right. So I'll pick these questions. How was this for you? What are you going to put into action today? Let's see. Would like more traction. Lisa's saying a lot of times we don't count other experiences and skills we have outside. So true. Deb saying I did have a golden thread, but as my business evolved in messaging, the thread needed to be reworked. Yeah. So this is a great point. Let me just rehash what Deb was alluding to. Sometimes what happens is your offers change, your business is evolving and growing, you're going in a slightly different direction, but we forget to have the messaging match the changes. And so it's, it's not landing well, and you're wondering why. And here's the other thing. You're not being relevant. And I personally had an experience around this that was really profound. And I'm going to unpack this more on Tuesday, but relevancy and specificity are essential. So you can have a great message, but if it's not relevant in these times to your ideal clients and it's not really meeting them with what's most prominent in their mind, they will not click through. They will not want more. They will go, oh, that was nice. So this is a big piece. We're going to unpack the relevancy and the specificity and why this matters so much right now. And it's going to be a game changer for you. Angela's saying she like stalking in a nice way. I know, right? Like, let's face it, it's so easy to kind of stalk someone in a good way, right? Thank you, Lisa, for posting that link. What's the URL again? Getmagneticmessaging.com. Thank you, Dem. John saying he lost the feed. Sorry, John, I don't know what happened there for you. You know, here's the thing with the internet, as crazy it is right now. I actually even saw on CNN, they're asking people to stop watching so much Netflix and streaming services because it's breaking the internet. And I don't know about you if you use Zoom a lot, but the last few days, Zoom has been super glitchy. So literally, there's millions of people who were never on the streaming services during the day, who never even knew what Zoom was, and are all of a sudden depending on them in order to work. So this is going to be an interesting time for those of us that are used to working online, right? But remember, adapt, be flexible, take big, bold action. That's really the key to navigate this. And that's a great place to end today, too. Whether you are just getting started here or you have been around the block a few times, but it's not working the way you want, you've got to be willing to adapt to what is working right now. So even if you think you know it all, if you're not getting the results and you're frustrated by the amount of effort you're putting in for the amount of results you're getting out, it's time to adapt. It's time to get flexible and figure out what is it that your client is searching. Sometimes just going back to the basics. And actually, one of the bonus things I'm including in the pre-work for the program is how to really figure out what do your ideal clients need and want right now. Because it does change and they are growing and adapting, and so are you. And so sometimes you got to take a few steps back and go through the exercise again in order to connect with what it is they need and want the most. And that relevancy is what sells. That relevancy is what's magnetic. That relevancy is what pulls them in. Yes. So remember, we can take big, bold action. Don't let fear stop you. And now is one of the most important times in our journey to dig deep and invest in your mastery of the things that are going to propel you forward in the next 6 months. Okay. So happy to answer any questions. I'll watch the feed. Feel free to reach out. If you are interested in the program, remember that the early registration pricing is over tomorrow. One of the questions that's been coming in is, Melanie, I would like to have you work with me. Can we do that? There is a VIP level. I only have 2 of those spots left. So if that's something that's calling to you, that like, I'd rather you do it with me rather than do just a group without the individual support, happy to talk to you about it and see if it's a good fit. All right. Thanks you all for being here. I'm so excited for what's possible when we start to bring these in. If you loved today's session and you want to share it with some friends, what you want to do is invite them into the Amplify Your Success community, and then they can come get this training. This training is exclusive to each of you for the moment. And it's my gift to you for being part of this community. And I'll continue to bring you some really powerful strategies to help us thrive during a time in our world that is so dependent on the virtual platforms to get you more visibility and more clients. All right. See you guys in a couple of days for the next series. Bye for now.